Nobility is, in essence, is right judgment. And I keep bringing up nobility, sovereignty, aristocracy, even, because all of the things in our world, regardless of what culture you come from, pretty much, you have an embedded tradition of knowing the way, of right action. This is called dharma to some, but there's other names for it. And when you look out into the world, you see complete deviation and reward for those who destroy the good. I woke up and I saw uh, the Passion of the Christ, the actor, and his it was just a little YouTube short uh, when he was talking about the that other film he made about the child trafficking. And when I speak of nobility, this is one of the key forces that we have to focus on. If you are a Christian, let's use Christians for example, because in the West, in America, it is primarily Christians in all their diversity and of belief, and atheist materialists, and then there are some spiritualists and other various groups, but those two are the largest. The Christian seems to, in their bulk, if taken as a whole, they seem to go against every teaching of their hero figures. If Christ were to overturn the moneylenders' tables, what do you think he would do to places like Epstein Island? And you know that there are perhaps hundreds or thousands of places like this, some which need not even be on islands. They can operate in broader society, uh, somewhat unnoticed. But if you do notice them, who really cares? What are you going to do about it? We have justice systems, culture, um, cultures, which allow evil. They prefer evil. If they started with good intentions, or there lay within them the potential for righteousness, they have been overtaken and obscured by those same people who abuse us in the political and um, sociological realm. Everything that we hold dear has been co-opted by what we could call elites, though they are that only in name, because they are a cabal of people who make sure that none can truly be elite. They are in a cult which eliminates the best. And we are all under this. We are all prisoners of this system. Surely, in the past, there have been cruel, corrupt, tyrannical rulers, but there have also been those that stand for justice. They may be deceived, they may be incoherent, they may be wrong, but at some level, many of them um, persisted toward the good and the beautiful. But you look at our world today, and this is rare, to say the least. Nobility and virtue are endangered species. Mankind is more a slave today than it has ever been in all of history. And it is continuing to get worse because we allow it to get worse. We are afraid of doing anything worth doing and subsist on empty calories in all ways. What they're doing to the food supply, this steady corrosion um, that you see in actual consumed food, education we receive, the medical care, what occurs on media, the political sphere, even interactions you see online, they have all been dumbed down, corroded. We've fallen quite far, and we are likely to continue falling. There may even come a time where the corruption is so intense that they need not do any of this in the dark anymore. And there are pockets where this is already so. You'll see right wing speakers talking about the evils of drag shows and things like this. And while, yes, I agree with them to some extent, this is what you're going to talk about when there is so much evil. You're going to focus on the mentally ill, the confused, the destroyed by our cultures, the destroyed by the incoherence of our cultures. Anyone with any sense, and we all have some sense, whether it's conscious or not, know that the rules of the world are nonsensical. That what you're told, that what you're exposed to by living on this world and engaging with the people and their beliefs as have been passed down to them through, the stream of information. It's incoherent. It's inconsistent. There's no truth in it. We have such a tolerance now for bullshit. It's baffling how submissive we've become to the ever expanding reach of the state. Though I disagree with many anarchists, well, with all anarchists, who believe that you can, in its entirety, remove the state. Because the state is a gang. And what happens if you remove the largest gang in your area? A smaller one rises up to take that position. So we are unlikely to ever have this anarchic utopia where no one must be abided by because we all follow the Tao, the Dharma, the natural law by which no wrong can be committed. We are not a planet of saints and sages who can fulfill great works without some higher force directing us. But those forces directing us today are aligned entirely toward evil, the inversion and corruption of the good. I'm drawn to speak of nobility and sovereignty, but I feel like a terrible channel for it. This this spirit of right action, this fire of Aria, living in this world, we are all corrupted by it. Our culture is that one ring that destroys us all. Though it has its benefits, its utility, we get obsessed with it. We sacrifice ourselves over to it for the benefits it provides. And the Dark Lord, quote unquote, knows this. There's no other game in town. Because all that evil has to do, all that those who are evil has to do, is blot out your awareness of a higher alternative. Oh, pardon me. And this has been done steadily through manipulating the food, causing our nutrition and our bodies to revolt against us, where we get diseases, we get mental diseases, our bodies and minds degrade, we lose the moral capacity to perceive right action. We seek a guide out in the world to tell us what to do. And many who claim sovereignty and push for the self-centered, no authority but me approach have been guided to this point by those who would prefer any with this inkling toward sovereignty to exclude themselves from the greater community. We have elaborate systems of thought control which separate communities of their functional pieces. If you imagine that people naturally have proclivities toward different positions on the field, on the social field, there are some who are leaders, there are some who are not, and there are many who are leaders in certain areas and would do best to follow in others. This is just um, natural human social economics. But you can look at what's been done historically, and you don't even need to consider it some great concocted conspiracy as if people planned this. It does not need to work like that. When you are around good people who do goodness, who do good um, without planning. I mean, they may plan as well, but their nature is to do good. They don't even need to understand why they're doing it. You just help people. So too is its opposite. When you have evil in you, and we all do, it will act out through you on its own. And I'm sure you've noticed this when it happens in you, through you, because if you put up with me on my here on Substack, you must at least have some sense to see through much of my performative nonsense. Or maybe you just don't bother reading, viewing any of it at all. And you just came here for the vibe, I guess. But assuming you are a diligent observer, you know that you have evil in you, and you have good in you too. And if we're to really achieve something, we are required to choose the good, but to not forget evil, to not pave over and ignore our darker capacities. We must understand that we are something different than our actions and our beliefs. What we think, feel, and will are subservient in a way and make up us as parts and pieces. But we recognize that we are some totality, that we have a self, and these pieces make up that. but they are not whole in themselves. And by favoring certain aspects, we can develop ourselves toward what we will ourselves to be. And this is what is meant in the grander scheme. This is what is meant by conscious evolution, that we begin to select traits of ours to carry on in our actions and throughout the generations. And this is why I'm naturally drawn toward education, because as I have written before, education is the reproductive organ of culture. And we have been, for many, many years, performing dysgenic practice. And we see the resultant diseases around us. If we're to distance ourselves from the globalist world banking system, from the antithetical morals of those in the high palace who do not really live in our world, these overseers who have abandoned humanity to be to place us as slaves and no more, who do not walk amongst the people, for they feel we are dirty. We are tools to be used and discarded. If we are in any way to abandon this system because we are the support pillars which allow these corruptions to go on, if we are to just walk away and their high castle falls and they have to do as we have been doing, perhaps we should have built communities here on the earth that can absorb and redeem these people. You see hippie communities, communes, you see small communal efforts. And I'm sure there are some which are more organized and take the position more of a city. Small towns, a coherent environment which minimizes the cult aspect of it. But you must understand, a cult is a culture that hasn't become large yet. That is all it is. It is a sociologic organism which has not risen, which has not reached fruition. It's larval. And it is good that most of these die out, as it has done in the biologic realm. Most animals, to preserve the health of the ecology, die out. And this may seem very cruel if you are not aware of the cruelty that transpires if this process does not happen. By refusing to cull certain aspects, to cull, cull, to kill certain aspects of yourself and your community. You sacrifice their potential in pursuit of lesser lights. One of these lesser lights is compassion, because when people hear compassion or empathy or love, peace, they are rarely motivated in actuality by achieving the utmost good, by, by ensuring that, we all get along, kumbaya, but they don't really understand what it takes to get there. So you give people these high ideals, but they're not morally trained. These are not people in general. The vast majority of people have been trained, inoculated against morality. And when I speak of morality, I don't mean a dogmatic relaying of information. I'm not speaking about the letter of the law. I speak of the spirit of the law. And what does this mean? You have within you a sensory capacity for detecting morality as in objective truth. It is as objective as how you see as your other senses. There can be deviations, there can be inconsistency. You can require glasses, something like this. You can hallucinate a smell that isn't there. All of these things. But it is a moral sense, an intuitive faculty, which allows you to do good to the degree that you have developed this sense. And all mystical religious teachings, any cultural core of any merit, is centered on this process of developing those kinds of senses so that you can act rightly, which I have said has been co-opted for the most part to serve a corrupt, dogmatic, letter of law, rule, legal system that has abandoned the spirit entirely. When you are following only the dogmatic letter, as soon as you are outside the gaze of others, as soon as you're not held accountable by another person, you will break those laws. They are control mechanisms for dumb herd animals. And many of you know this. Many of you who are anti-state, anti-legalisms, give me freedom and whatnot. You feel in you that you can determine what is right for yourself. And I agree, this is true. But that sense by which you make this determination can develop and grow. And you will create a disordered society if you place that self of yours, which determines right or wrong, as the absolute clear perception of what to do. This would be something like a Luciferic fall, where you mistake a lesser faculty for the ultimate, the most high. As Lucifer became confused, so too do your rational, logical faculties assert themselves to already know. To already know in a way that stunts growth and evolution. This is not desirable. So building actual communities first requires you to develop yourself and to know that this process will never end. You will never be good enough. And this is good. There should be no shame. There should be no, um, I guess shame. There should be no shame in this. There should be shame for not recognizing this. To have pride is a sort of retardation for yourself or in others, because pride always has its fall, and that is shame. This is the manic depressive cycle. If you've not connected with that through line, which penetrates all of your actions in yourself, your experiences, this guiding light, this the silence in which all notes arise, if you have not recognized and begun to revere this, you will be led astray and worship one note on the board at the sacrifice of the entire symphony. And this will come back to bite you. While you're doing this moral development, communing with others is also essential. You should not go into a cave and avoid the world while you're doing this. You begin to form communities which hold you to the standard, and you argue. This is the merit of democracy. Democracy is to be used in familial, local settings. It is not for large-scale decision-making. It is a pooled resource of cognition that you offer up to a higher authority, which you have agreed should be there. Because this is the natural flow of sovereign bodies. Imagine if each of your cells had an opinion had their own individuality and sought to express this. It disregarded your control over the system. This is how you get cancer. This is why you cannot want democracy at a large scale, because you will get cancer. If you recognize cultures as a large organism in which you are embedded, which is what they are, a great, subtle organism, you cannot overinflate your importance in that body. You must know your place, and your place should be able to change. This is also important. Not by decree, but by the natural processes of societies. There is no hard set caste system in my philosophy. This would be counterproductive. In systems where people are told who they are, you get heart cells being told they are kidneys, and all of the confusion and chaos this brings. So when you're forming communities on your own, or you're noticing you're already their community, you must start preening and pruning yourself and others of desirable traits, for desirable traits, of undesirable traits, preening them of these. Man is a maintained garden. We are not a wilderness. Not anymore. We have risen beyond this. And with that comes great responsibility. Responsibility most of us refuse. We do not care for our sovereign body. We are not conscious enough. We are absorbed into unimportant things as we wither away at our core. These obsessions that rule us must be tamed as rabbits and sparrows and insects in our garden. They all have their place, their position, their use, their goodness. But when not in their goodness, they must be cast out. You will start to see everything as much of the same thing. This garden metaphor, this body metaphor. There is an underlying principle, a pattern of movement by which right action occurs. And these systems will naturally, unless they are corrupt, they will naturally filter into hierarchies of development, of ascension. This is Jacob's ladder, the hierarchy of angels. Though we are men with potential to become angels, and you don't need to believe in that, but just take the metaphor if you're of that mindset. You will naturally follow others, and those that you follow, those that you perceive as above you, if they are truly above, they will be helping you. They will be providing for you. Not in that they give you everything, but they allow you to get it yourself. It is a hierarchy of elders, of graters, feeding the small, the lowest among us, hoping that they might achieve their potential. You are not holding on, you're not clinging to your position as a leader of some cult, desperate to remain there. You want to be, in your heart, where you should be. And you will not have illusions about this. When you are in a group, your group will choose and sort you to where you should be. And they may be all manner of corrupt, just as you are. And this is why the democratic process goes on. You're arguing. Maybe you're in the wrong community. That's always possible. Freedom of transport and speech are going to be essential. Of course, people will game this. Those who are prideful and believe their position to be higher than it actually is, who refuse their place to recognize who they are, naturally forego any evolution. Because if you cannot see where you're standing, how can you move? But you do move, only further down. Have fun with your networking.